So first I want to tell Amy thank you for inviting me. Y'all, I'm really a laid back person, so if you are uptight, we will not get along. Amy asked me last year to speak, and I believe I was asleep because I told her yeah, and I would have normally said no. But here I am, and I'm Lady Ty from Spirit and Truth Worship Center, and my husband is Paul R. Johnson. We've been married 4 years in October, and it's been an interesting first couple of years, right? So, to get us warmed up, we're here to talk about freedom. I want you guys to join with me on a little icebreaker. If I give a question or a statement that you feel like you agree with or it speaks to you, stand up, okay? Okay? All right. Stand up if you changed your outfit at least once before coming here today. Stand up if you're a wife. Stand up if you have biological children. Stand up if you have stepchildren. Stand up if you are self-employed. Stand up if you are a stay-at-home mom. Let's give them a hand. I almost can't stay 5 hours with my kid. I'm like, anybody want her? Stand up if you've ever been told you were fat. Now they ought to be ashamed of themselves. God. All right, y'all. Stand up if you were told you were too thin. Stand up if you have a disability or a chronic illness. All right? Stand up if you've ever lost a child. Stand up if you've ever had a miscarriage. Kind of the same thing. All right? Stand up if you've ever lost a spouse. Stand up if you've ever experienced divorce. Stand up if you've ever lost a parent. Wow. Stand up if you've ever felt jealous of another woman. She like, not me, child, bye. Stand up if you've ever struggled with depression. Stand up if you've ever struggled with anxiety. They typically go hand in hand sometimes. Stand up if you've ever felt unattractive. Stand up if you felt angry or irritable more than 2 times this week. Stand up if you feel unfulfilled in life at times. Stand up if you often question what people think about you. Stand up if you want to experience true freedom. All right, so looks like I'm in the right room, right? I did that because sometimes as women we can feel like we're the only ones. Like, am I the only one that feel ugly today or alone today or like my marriage is falling apart or like what the heck am I doing? So I went to lunch with Amy and Tracy, and it's like after that, all hell broke loose in my life, if I can be honest. And I was like, what in the world is going on with me? So, and I'm pretty transparent. So I went to get Jada from daycare, and on the way, my husband got upset with me about something. So I wasn't real Christian, and I hung up in his face. Because I'm like, you're not going to talk to me like that. Who you talking to? Click. He calls back. So we're going back and forth. And it was kind of like something really small. So I pick up Jada. He was like, we were talking about it at home. I was like, no, we're not. Get Jada, we're driving home. And I was like, devil, you going to get out of my house. Same thing like with War Room. And I'm like telling the devil, you going to get out of my house, get out of my marriage. You know, I'm just going to town. And Jada said, bye-bye, monster. And if you know me, I'm a little scary. So I was like, wait. So I looked back to see if it was a real monster back there. And she was pointing out the window and she said, bye-bye, monster. And so since I didn't really see a monster, I said, yeah, bye-bye, monster. But it was to me a signal that I had told the enemy to leave. And he had to go, and he actually did leave. So sometime when you think about freedom, actually, let's go back a little bit. When you think about the word freedom, what does it mean to you? What does it look like to you? What does it feel like? This is when you can talk back to me. Peace, letting go of everything, no worries. Exactly. All right, so we look at the definition of freedom. It's the state of not being subject to or affected by a particular undesirable thing. The state of not being imprisoned. So that means exactly what you said, peace, not being bound, having a freedom of mind. Just because you're free don't mean you can do whatever you want to do. Doesn't mean you can talk to people how you want to talk to them. It just means that you're not in bondage. And sometimes things is like money or a relationship or illnesses can keep us in bondage. So what is bondage? What does that look like to you? What does it feel like to you? Stress. What else? Trap. Anybody in here ever felt trapped? Stuck. Unsure. Exactly. So the definition of bondage is the state of being a slave. When you are a slave to something, it becomes your master. When it calls, you answer. It has your attention. It is what you obey. What do you obey? Sometimes we can obey our emotions. Sometimes I don't want to get out of bed today. I'm just going to stay in the bed because no one understands I'm depressed. Well, now depression has you in bondage because there's a chemical component to depression, and we understand that. There's also a decision that you have to make. I'm not going to lay here. All right? So I believe God wants me to talk to you today about being honest about where you are. That's what he's been dealing with me on. Like, Ty, just be honest because you look cute. I mean, toot my own horn, you look cute. But really, when it comes down to it, how honest are we with God? Transparency comes before transformation. And so we're going to be free. You have to be honest about how you really feel about God, where he has you in life, where you are in life, how you feel about where you are. And then that's where freedom starts. Because sometimes we put all that responsibility on God, and there are some things he just requires for you to do. Amen? All right, so let's start with, I want to tell you too, don't look at your neighbor. Don't worry about her next to you because that will keep you in bondage. Because it's like, well, if she's not raising her hand, then I'm not going to raise my hand because I don't want to look stupid, or I don't want to look weak, or I don't want to look like I don't have it together. So put on blinders because at this moment, it's about you. It's you and God, all right? So first thing is, have you stopped believing? Have you lost hope? Anyone in here has lost hope? I'll tell you, and I'm being transparent. I spent a long time thinking, oh, if I can just get married, I'll be okay. Just get married, I'll be okay. Got married, everything was not okay. I was like, okay. So then I felt like I lost hope. But what I realized is God was showing me how to love, and he's still showing me how to love, all right? So let's visit a lady. Her name is Sarah. Genesis 18, 10 through 15. This is the NIV version. Then one of them said, I will surely return to you about this time last year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Now Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent because we're always snooping, right? Which was behind him, and Abraham and Sarah were very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself, and she thought, after I am worn out, Sarah said, now I done used this thing my whole life, right? After I am worn out, and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure? Then the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, will I really have a child now that I'm old? Is there anything too hard for God? I believe at that moment, God was like, is Sarah trying me? Did Sarah just question who I am? He He said, is there anything too hard for God? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, I did not laugh. But he said, yes, you did laugh. So Sarah laughed actually twice. The first time was a laugh of doubt. The second time she laughed, you got to keep reading, it was a laugh of fulfillment because God did exactly what he said. So what do you do when you stop believing? Because a lot of times you don't know that you're going through the motions and, I believe God, but really in your heart, you doubt him because you've been waiting for years for him to do it and he has not done it. Well, God, I want to get married, but everybody else is getting married. I'm always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Lord, I want a baby. I want a baby so bad. Here I go to another baby shower that's not mine. Lord, look at her husband over there. He's so attentive to her. And look at my man. I can't even get him to take me on a date. But I've been praying about this. Lord, I keep going to the doctor and they keep giving me another diagnosis upon diagnosis. And I keep saying, Lord, you're a healer. Why aren't you healing me? Sometimes when you wait for a long time on something, it makes your faith or your hope waver. That does bring on depression and anxiety and emotional baggage and frustration and irritability. And you walking around, they say, oh, she's just hormonal. No, I'm mad because God has not answered me. And I'm serving and I'm giving and I'm attending every meeting and everything they tell me to do, I'm doing it. But my house is tore up. If you're God, why don't you do it? Anybody know how that feels when you stop believing? You wait year after year after year and he doesn't answer. What does that feel like to you? Anybody want to share? Painful. Let down. Exhausting. It does. Disappointing and hopeless. Sarah, what she was doing is she was looking in the natural realm because her body was old. And she tried to make a way with her midwife, and that what she called midwife? And she tried to let that lady have her baby, and she was like, oh, wait, she trying me. So I'm going to kick her out. Abraham kicked her out, and her and the kid, because she was trying to make a way for God. God didn't need her help. So to get back belief, what you need to do is hang around people who have hope. Remember what God has done, because sometimes what we do is we focus on so much of what we want him to do that we forget what he's already done. And whatever your mind is on, that is what you will magnify. In counseling, my approach, and I love it, is CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. And that means that whatever you think, that's how you behave, that's how your emotions will do, and then that's what you will act out. So we have to start in the mind first. Freedom starts in the mind first, what you tell yourself. And you cannot hang around a bunch of hopeless women and think you're going to have hope. You have to look at your circle, even with your spouse. Sometimes our spouses are really negative. And as the helpmeet, and I always love this story because when he made Adam, he saw immediately that Adam could not do it by himself. He had one job. It was one job. It was to name everything. He said, Lord, let me get him some help. And we are the help. But sometimes there are things that only God can do for them, and the only help that we can give them is prayer. So you need to hang around people that can build you up. And don't isolate yourself. The first thing the enemy does is he wants to isolate you. Because if he can get you by yourself, then he'll have you thinking, oh, I'm so alone. Well, yeah, you are alone because you're at the house and you won't leave. All right? So build your circle. Feed on his word. Because God will do his part. Because he's not going to let anybody show him up because he's God. And if he said it, he's going to do it because he watches over his word to perform it. He takes counsel in himself. He doesn't need anyone else's permission to bless you. And if he does not do it, you have to know that he's well able to do it, and he's giving you exactly what he needs. And you don't and just because you have a thing doesn't mean it has to have you. You can be diagnosed with something, but you don't have to live under it. Making sense? Like I watch people, with my clients, and if they have diagnosis, if they're acting out, the first thing they say is, oh, I have bipolar. It's like they're bragging on it. I have bipolar. But you still should use common sense on certain things. Take your medication. Go to counseling. You have to put certain things in place so that you can give God something to work with. All right? Am I making sense to you guys? All right. First thing is, have you become complacent? What does it mean to be complacent? Stuck. Say it again. I'm sorry. Girl, going through the motions. Raise your hand if right now you're going through the motions. Well, I just showed up because I know if I didn't come, they were going to wonder why I didn't come. Where's she at? Going through the motions, all right? Sometimes we get used to dry places. We get used to places that we're not supposed to be in. We make those our home. So we make depression our home. We make an abusive relationship our home. We make having the lack of money our home. We make a unsuccessful, unfulfilling job our home. Those are dry places. And if we serve God, why would he want us to live like that? That's not his will. That's not his plan, because we are his children. And you give your children the absolute best. So let's visit a man. It's John 5:4-9. I'm just going to summarize it for you. This man lay by the pool of Bethesda for how many years, y'all? 38 years. 38 years he laid by this pool, and they believed that an angel would come down in a season and trouble the water, and the first person to step down in it will be healed. So here comes Jesus walking up to this man. First thing he says, he don't say, how you doing? Can I help you? He says, do you want to be made well? Like, do you want it? Because some things in life, you just have to decide, I'm going to do this because I want it. And his response was, every time I get ready to go in, first of all, nobody's here to help me. And every time I get ready to go in, somebody steps in before me. Jesus replied, he didn't even acknowledge the pity party. Pick up your bed and walk. Sometimes we get complacent and comfortable in our pity party. So this is my best friend on the front row. And last week, I was having a pity party because I had forgotten about a bill I had to pay. And I was like, I wanted that to go to Belt to catch this little sale they had. And so she said, well, friend, I'll let you hold some money. I said, I don't want no money. I'm just so tired of, just going on and on and on. So she went to Zaxby's, and I'm over there crying. I said, well, I do kind of want a Sprite. My pride got in the way. And I knew I was hungry over there, but I was so angry. And I was soaking in my pity party. And sometimes that could feel comfortable because it becomes your story. And we feed off of the story. We feed off the attention we get off that story. Oh, this is my story. This is my rape story. And then you tell it like a victim instead of a victor. You have to tell a thing that builds faith, not builds a mess and depression. Am I making sense? How are you telling your story? This man laid by, we don't know if he walked to the pool, if he was carried to the pool. We just know at the point when Jesus came, he was laying by the pool. 38 years. What have you been carrying all this time because you've gotten comfortable and you think that, well, they're supposed to help me. You're waiting on an apology that you may never get. And you're carrying around that anger and that hurt because it was their fault. So I have a right to feel this way. And while you're doing that, you're laying by the pool and everyone else is getting their healing while you're waiting for somebody else to do it for you. And some things you have to do for yourself. Am I making sense? Do I sound too hard? Because that's where I am in life. And I believe that's what God wanted me to share with you guys, is that he's waiting for you to make the decision. He's waiting for you to decide, do you want to be made well? Transparency moment. Is there anyone in the room want to share something they want to be made well in their life? You want to?
Okay. So, most of y'all know me. My name's Megan. I go to church here. I have really, really bad anxiety. When we had the healing series, matter of fact, I sat in the chair twice, literally twice. Um, the second day, or the second time I sat in the chair, I heard God say to me that day, ask your friends to lift their shields of faith and fight this battle with you. And I've got several people in here that have stood by me, have fought battles with me. And that's one thing. I keep going through the same repetitive cycle because I don't know how to let stuff go. I mean, and at some point, nobody else can do it for me. I've got to walk in my own healing and I've got to walk in my own faith. It's not going to be easy, but I pray the same prayer, pretty much, well, the same Bible verse every night, which is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. It's actually what I wrote on the beam out there for all of the kids, because no matter what you're going through, God still has a plan for your life. And you can't let what you see right now make you forget what God has said, what He has promised you. And I read a thing one time that said sometimes God will delay your blessings until your character is ready for the promise. And I'm actually thankful for that, because if He were to give me some things right now, I know I would ruin it without a shadow of a doubt, because my character needs to be developed. So,
Give her a hand. Amen. That was very brave of you. One thing I know about anxiety is it's there because of worry and because of fear. Most things, the root of it is fear. What's going to happen? How is it going to turn out? Did God hear me? Will God do it? Fear, fear, fear. How do we combat fear? With faith. What do you do when you don't have enough faith? You borrow someone else's faith. We're all in this thing together. We're all in this thing together. And as women, we wear multiple hats. We have the mom hat. We have the wife hat. We have the friend hat. We have the pastor's wife hat, which is a totally different hat. Totally different. It's a heavy one, right? We have the praise team hat. So many responsibilities until sometimes we forget who we are. And you don't get enough poured into you because you're always pouring out, pouring out, pouring out. And it's so important that you don't live your lives separate, but join forces. And when you see your neighbor struggling, pour faith into her. Pour faith into her. Which brings me to my last point. Press your way through. What's your issue? This is one of my favorite stories. The woman with the issue of blood. So I've been reading it for years and years and years. But this particular year, something else stood out to me. That it was an opportunity that she realized. It was a moment, a window. So this woman, if you don't know the story, she suffered with the issue of blood for 12 years. And during this time, she would go to different doctors and different people trying to get healed. And instead of her getting healed, she grew worse. Just like how you see those commercials with those medications, and they say, well, it's going to fix one problem, but then your ear might fall off in the process. It's like, well, I just keep what I have, right? So she kept going to physicians trying to get healed, never got healed, and then she heard about Jesus passing through. And she talked to herself, and she said, what? If I can just touch the hem of his garment. If I can just touch the hem of his garment. She heard about him, which is so important of how we talk around people, because you never know when they need to hear something. And sometimes you can be talking so negative until when they need faith to pull, they can't pull it from you because you've been talking negative so much. Be mindful of the conversation you keep and the things that you say. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You have to have a clean heart. So she heard that Jesus was passing by. She heard that he can heal. And she said, if I can just touch. And what I like about her is that she did not lose hope. She didn't lose faith. And it was 12 long years And she still had belief that she could be healed. And during that time, when you're bleeding like that, you had to go into isolation. So I'm sure she went through depression and anxiety and felt like everybody turned their back on her and felt like nobody cared about her. I'm sure she went through every single emotion possible. But she talked to herself. And she said, if I can just touch. And I'm sure she was weak, because you can't bleed that long and not feel weak. Our issues make us feel weak. But she decided to what? Press. So she's in this crowd and everybody trying to get healed. And she's pressing. And she's pressing. She's weak, but she's pressing. She didn't think about, what are they going to think about me? What are they going to say? Why is she out here amongst us? We can't be around her. She had her focus on Jesus. Her focus was on, if I can just touch him. He don't have to even look at me if I can just touch him. If I can just touch him. And that's what you have to tell your mind. In some versions, they say she kept saying it over and over again. If I can just touch him. If I can just touch him. If I can just touch it. And I can imagine her in this crowd, trying not to be seen, because sometimes in church world, we just want to be seen. Don't see me. God, I'm on my way to you. I'm on my way to you. So she's pressing. She come up behind him and she touched to him. And because of the faith that she had, it got his attention. It got his attention. Sometimes your faith can be so loud that it'll make him turn around and say, who is that? It's your turn. It's your turn. And I believe God wants me to tell you to stop laying by the pool. Stop waiting for people to save you and make a decision. I'm going to press. Lord, I'm tired of this illness, but I'm going to press. Lord, I'm tired of feeling like I'm by myself, but I'm going to press. Lord, you promised me that my children will be saved. You promised me, but I'm going to press. Lord, you promised me that my marriage will look a certain way, but I'm going to press. It's a decision. It's a mental decision. That's funny. That took me. It really is a decision. How long are you going to lay by the pool? How long are you going to lay there waiting for someone to do it for you? Well, if I can just call so-and-so and she pray for me, pray for yourself. If I can just get to so-and-so because I know God hears her, God hear you too. He hears you too. You have to have a personal relationship with God. How do you develop that? Spend time with him. She said she has a scripture that she meditates on every day. You don't have to know the Bible from beginning to end. Get you one thing, even if it's just Jesus wept, that lets you know he knows how I feel. He knows exactly how I feel, and he's on the way. Amen. In closing, I hope I didn't go too fast. I want you to find a woman in the room that you can pray with. And I want you to be honest about what you desire from the Lord. And I want you to touch and agree that God is going to do it. But before you do that, I want you to make a decision that you're going to press. That if you truly want freedom, that you're going to stop saying, well, God, if you just bless me, I will. If you just bless me, I will. He's already done enough. He's already done so much, and we're always asking for more and more and more. It's time to give him praise. It's time to give him our very best. It's time to say, Lord, for you I live and for you I die. And whatever it takes, God, I'm going to press. Stop whining about what he didn't do. He got you. He's very aware of your needs, and he will supply all of your needs. I used to be a very bitter, angry girl. Angry at my father because I thought he was so mean. And he was. He was. And I thought my mama was weak because she stayed. But that anger tore me up on the inside, and I carried it from Savannah all the way here to Georgia Southern, and life kicked my butt because I was carrying anger. And that was not, and I kept giving my father the responsibility to heal me. That wasn't his job. That was not his job. So stop giving others the responsibility and make the decision. That's just a chapter in my life. That's not my entire book. It's just a chapter. So stand up and find a woman in the room. Please don't go to your normal person. I know that's easy. Find someone to touch and agree with. And share what you need from the Lord. And take this moment to pray together.